You know, the worst 2 days in the history of our family were March 13th and March 14th of 2018. And they were caused by me, by my sin and my selfishness. And it's painful to think about. It's painful to even talk about it now. And I don't want to go into details, but those 2 days were the worst of the entire year. Now, the whole year was difficult for different reasons, but those 2 days were brutal. I had to talk to my wife, Erin. I had to talk to our boys, and it was just painful for them. And it was just a terrible, terrible time. And I didn't just hurt them, I hurt lots of people with my sin and selfishness. But it was the day after, so I guess it was the 14th, when I had to drive to Greenville, South Carolina and talk to Sam, who was in Bible college at the time, and then drive back to Atlanta and talk to Ty. That whole trip was just kind of a blur. There's very little I remember about the drive, but I remember everything about the conversation with my boys. And I remember specific things that they both said to me that I'll never forget. But it was something that Sam said that really caught my attention, and I think is a teachable moment for everybody. While we were talking, he said, "Dad, Jesus said, if your right eye causes you to sin, you need to gouge it out. And if your right hand causes you to sin, you need to cut it off." And I said, as honestly as I felt like I could at the time, "Sam, I believe I've done that." And this is the part I'll never forget. He said, "Dad, you need to keep cutting." He was exactly right. I had a long way to go because I had to get to the root of the problem. You know, you can't see it very well, but just outside these windows here, there are a couple of huge oak trees. And this time of the year, they're dropping acorns by the thousands. They're kind of something I have to deal with. And some of them take root. And when they do, you want to pluck them because you don't want to have oak trees all over the yard. And if you pull them too quickly and they snap off, you realize that one may keep growing. But if you're careful and you work really hard, you can get one at the root like this. Or you might even be able to get it like this, which has got the acorn still attached. And when you pull that out at that root place like that, you know that is never going to grow. You've killed it. You've eliminated it. You really need to think about your life when you're outside of Christ. And maybe your sin was different than mine. Maybe you've got something else in your life, like greed or gossip, or there's some issue that you're dealing with behind the scenes that other people don't know about, and it's taken root in your heart. I just implore you to go in there and cut it out. And if you realize that it's coming back because you kind of snapped it off and you didn't really go at the root, you got to keep cutting. You got to keep digging until you get down to that source. Because whatever that is, if it grows too much more, it's going to cause painful consequences for you and for those people around you that you love. And it doesn't need to be in your life. It needs to be eliminated. And there's really a place where it's grown into your life, maybe, to where it might be controlling you. It might even have mastery over you. You've got to cut it out. You've got to gouge it out. You've got to cut it off. You've got to keep cutting, keep digging until you get to the root. I don't love talking about these things, but this blog isn't going to help you if I don't talk about some real stuff, and this is real stuff. Gouge it out, cut it off, get it at the root. It'll be painful, but it'll be the best thing you've ever done. Get some help, bring it before Christ, get some counseling if you have to. It'll change your life. Still be the best thing you've ever done. Until next week, keep walking with Jesus.